Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Like we say on this show, it all depends the time zone from where you are watching us from. Welcome to The Leader, courtesy of the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, EAK, on Hope Media. My name is Edmund Mudibo. Kingdom wealth, faithful with the talents. And here we say, turning biblical wisdom into financial faithfulness. The inspiration comes from the parable of the talents. And we all know Matthew chapter 25, verses 14 to 30, where we find that there was a master. When he left, he gave some talents, as it were, to his servants and went off on a trip. Coming back, some had invested, there was a return. But there was one who played it safe, fearful, hid, and gave back the master what he was given. And he was rebuked. Wangeshi Mwangi, karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Edmund.
Madam Wangeshi, you are from Lofty Coburn, marketing manager.
Yes.
Who are you?
Well, as you rightfully said it, I am Wangeshi Mwangi, the marketing manager at Lofty Coburn Investments Limited. Lofty basically means an elevated place in English. And then Coburn is a Hebrew word that means a sacrifice. So essentially, Lofty Coburn basically means an elevated service as a sacrifice to God. So primarily, we're a fund manager. We are licensed by the Capital Markets Authority to offer fund management services to the public, as well as pension management to the public as well. So I am a mother. Mm-hmm. I'm a proud mother. I'm a proud wife. Mm-hmm. And I have been in the investments industry now for just about 3 years now. So I'm happy to be here today to be able to unpack this topic with you, just to get to understand what the biblical principles are when it comes to investing. So we'll be able to draw those parallels as we go on during this interview. So thank you for having me.
All right, now let's, there's a context that you want to lay as foundation to the parable of the talents. Let's get on with the show.
Okay. All right, so Matthew 25 basically, as a chapter, basically talks about the parable of the talents. When you look at from verse 14, where the parable begins, Christ is talking about, as you rightfully said it, he's talking about a master who's gone on a journey, and then he's entrusting, a number of talents to each of them. So to one, he's given 5, to another, he's given 2, and another, he's given 1, right? And then when you come towards the end of the chapter, you can see that there's a very harsh response that the master actually gives. We'll get to unpack it a bit more later. But I think for me, I needed to understand where Christ was coming from. And so for me to get to really delve deeper into that, I had to go back, to the other chapters before this, just to get to have a bigger picture of what Christ is really talking about and why there's this harshness that is, coming forth towards the end of chapter 25 with this specific parable of the talents. And so it begins from around the 21st chapter, where we can see there's that triumphal entry, where Christ is now getting into Jerusalem. Okay, as you know it, Christ gets into Jerusalem on a donkey, and then now he's getting in, he wants to engage with his people, primarily, these are the Jews. And there's a message that Christ wants to put out to his people. However, as we go through the different chapters, we can see that there's a common theme, all right? As Christ is trying to express himself, we can see that there's a common theme that he's trying to communicate as he moves along. And so we start with the triumphal entry, like I said, in chapter 21. And then Christ is trying to tell the Israelites that the kingdom of heaven is coming, that the end times are near. But unfortunately, the Jews are not receiving this message. They are rejecting the message of the gospel. So Christ now becomes very creative in terms of giving, these parabolic messages. So it's very encouraging to know that Christ, God in himself is a creator. He is very creative. And we can see it through these chapters. So 21, triumphal entry. He gives the message of, the end times. And then he goes into the temple where obviously we can see, it has been turned into a marketplace, right? And obviously Christ is he's not amused, and he turns the tables upside down because he's not amused with what has taken place. And then we move on. And now Christ gives the first parable, which is a parable of the two sons. And he says, there's a father here who has sent out his sons. One says, I'm going to go, but ends up not going. And then the other one says, I will go, but he actually ends up not going. And then we move on to a different parable, which is the parable of the tenants. And in this parable, there is a landowner, right, who owns a vineyard, and he has given it to a few tenants, right? And in this case, you can see there's an element of, he's entrusted this space or this land to them. And at some point now, he expects that there's going to be a share that is going to come back to him. And so he sends out the first batch of servants to go. But unfortunately, the tenants end up killing him, right? And then he ends up sending another batch of servants to go and get his portion or his share, but they end up killing him again, or they end up killing these servants once again. And then now finally, towards the end, the landowner says, this time round, I'm actually going to send my son. I don't think they would kill my son. So let's send out my son, and let's see if they can actually now give out this portion or this share that I truly deserve. But unfortunately, when they get there, or rather when the son gets there, the tenants say, this is perfect because if we kill him, then we're going to get the inheritance. So let's actually go ahead and kill him, and let's see what we can actually get out of it. So again, let's pack that parable. So we've looked at the parable of the two sons. We've looked at the parable of the tenants. And now we're moving on to another parable. So Christ is still speaking parabolically. If you're keen to listen to him, then you'll be able to understand what the central theme is here. So I was trying to imagine he's speaking to the Pharisees and the scribes and, the Jews. I'm wondering, are they really listening to him? Are they really understanding what he's saying? Because he's speaking in these parables. So he goes on to bring in the extra parable here, which is the parable of the wedding. And here he's talking about a master or a king who has prepared a wedding for his son. And he invites people over, but unfortunately, nobody wants to come, okay? And so the king gets really mad and he says, you know what? He sends out his servants and says, just go out to the highways and to the byways and bring just anybody and everybody who would be willing to come for this wedding. Because you can imagine, Edmund, you have a wedding for your son. You've told me you have sons, right?
Yes.
So you've prepared a wedding, a beautiful wedding for them. And you've probably spent a lot of money, but nobody wants to come. And eventually, you end up saying, you know what, just go and get anybody that can come because you've spent a lot of money. And so that's what we're seeing in this parable. So the servants go out there. And in this case and in this context, we're actually being told that the Jews who primarily should be receiving the message, which is the central theme, like we said, don't receive it, they reject it. And so the Gentiles who are now out there in the highways and byways are the ones who are now coming to the wedding, okay? So let's now pack that parable as well. And then as we move along into chapter 24, now Christ is, being questioned by the scribes and the Pharisees. They're trying to trip him, they're trying to trap him, they're trying to see what they can do to, to make him fall or to make him, second guess himself or say something that is off. But Christ remains grounded. He remains very firm in his stance. He doesn't shake, and eventually they're taken aback and they just withdraw. And for me, Edmund, for me, it was really sad to know that these are the people that Christ was called to, the people that primarily belong to him, his children. He's right before them, but they don't recognize him. Mm-hmm. They don't realize that this is actually the Christ. They doubt him. They doubt his message. They reject his message, right? And so Christ continues, all right? Then now we get into the 25th chapter. So now we are landing back to where we actually began. So the 25th chapter now starts with another parable, which is the parable of the 10 virgins, right? And here the parable talks about 10 virgins, 5 of whom were ready. The whole idea is that they're going out to meet the bridegroom, right? And 5 of them are prepared. They have oiled their lamps. They are, they have taken all the necessary measures possible to ensure that when he does come, they're not caught, caught flat-footed, that they're ready to actually, go out and meet him. And then, unfortunately, there are other 5 who were, I don't know what they were doing, but unfortunately, it's like they missed that message that the bridegroom is coming and you need to go out and actually meet him. So the 5 go out and they meet with Christ in this case, or in this context, and the other 5 do not. So remember the central theme, which is all about the kingdom, the end of the times, mm-hmm. the kingdom of heaven, the good message of Christ, of the gospel, that ideally is a central theme, but they end up rejecting. So there are those who end up, receiving it, and there are those who end up rejecting it. And then now to qualify, towards now the end, the mid part of chapter 25 is where now Christ says it is like a servant, or rather it's like a master who goes out on a journey and entrusts some resources to his servants, okay? To one he gives 5, to another he gives 2, and to another he gives 1, okay? So there's an element of stewardship which is coming out here, okay? So the one with the 5 ends up doubling, mm-hmm. right? Brings in another 5. The one with the 2 also doubles and comes back with other, 2 talents. And then there's the one who, I don't know, I'm looking at it, maybe, I'm trying to localize it. Eh?
Yes.
He probably said, let me just park this somewhere.
Yeah, I'll keep it safe. I'll take care.
Let me just put this somewhere, maybe at home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe under my mattress. I don't know, right? But again, I wanted to understand what a talent actually means in the context of the Bible. Because when you think about it in the context of maybe the English language, it could be maybe a gift, right? But I wanted to truly understand, what does it mean when the Bible says a talent, okay? So when you go through the Bible, it actually says that a talent is worth 20 years of a laborer's day's wage. So, fine, 20 years. But what does that look like in present day? Okay. Mm. So as I continued to research, I got to realize that the numbers are actually quite baffling, right? So when you look at 1 talent, say for example, in the Kenyan context, or maybe in dollars, it's giving us a range of about $500,000 to about $1 million, mm-hmm. Edmund. That's a lot of money, right? Just do the quick math and you'll get to see how much money we're talking about. So when we talk about this one guy who had the 1 talent, I don't even think it's possible to put that under a mattress, is it? And then now when we talk about the 2 talents, so we're basically saying, if we can localize it now and look at it in terms of Nairobi, for example, the current wage for Nairobi municipality currently is about 775 Kenya shillings, right? So if we do the math and then end up with 20 years.
20 years, extrapolate to 20 years.
How much money are we talking about? So essentially we're basically saying that around, for the one with the 1 talent, we're looking at approximately 4.46 million Kenya shillings, present day, okay? If we look at the aspect of the time value of money. When we look at the other one with the 2 talents, we're saying that we're talking about 17.8 million Kenya shillings. And then finally, the one with the 5 talents, it comes to around 111.5 million Kenya shillings. So that's a lot of money, okay? And this is after we've done the math of the multiplication effect.
Yeah.
So it is quite unfortunate that as you know, you get to go through the parable, that the one with the one did not see the need to multiply it. He thought that he was being a good steward by putting it aside and packing it. We're not told how long this journey is as well. So we don't know if it's a year or if it's 2 years or 5 years. But what we can see, and I believe we'll unpack it even more as we move along, is that the one with the 2 talents and the one with the 5 talents are the ones that really we need to look at. What is it that they actually did to be able to multiply these talents, okay, to get to the 115 million or the 17 million that we're talking about. So those are some of the things that we're going to be unpacking today, Edmund. For us as Christians or as believers, or generally as Kenyans, to get to know what we need to do to get to that point where we can multiply what we have, be it very little or very, a lot.
I like that because what's coming through here is that God is the master. He's the owner. We are but stewards. Secondly, is that we have different talents, but there's a same, what I'd call same expectation in terms of being faithful and being fruitful. And thirdly, there's a danger of playing it safe out of fear.
Yeah.
So what spiritual and practical truths can we draw from this parable today?
Okay. So I think in the present day, as we've unpacked just from chapter 21, we've gotten to see what the central theme is, right? And as Christ was speaking, that was primarily what he was trying to communicate, that there's a central theme here, the kingdom of God is coming, and we need to be ready. So there's an element of preparedness. So if we can draw parallels to present day, to get to apply that in our day-to-day lives, first of all, let's start with the minor theme, which comes through Matthew 25 in the parable of the talents. And this minor theme is stewardship, okay? Where we can also now talk about investment. So what is stewardship? Stewardship is the ability for you to take care of something that has been entrusted to you. So are you a good steward, for example, with the little that you have been given or the much that has been entrusted to you? So when you look at the Bible, it talks about being a good steward. And when you look at the book of 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2, it tells us that moreover, it is required of steward that they be found faithful. Okay, so we've spoken about being faithful with either the little or the much that we have. And then there's also the book of Psalm, chapter 24, verse 1, that tells us that the earth is the Lord's and everything that is in it. So everything that has been given to us, no matter what it is, right? God is the creator. He's entrusted to us. He's given us time. There are resources. There's money. There's so many things that God has given to us. Are we able to say that we are good stewards? Are we able to say that we are faithful with what God has entrusted with us? Okay, let's start with that little, okay? And then now you can be able to extrapolate and say that I am faithful with this little, and I know that I can actually, be able to move to a place where I can actually be also be entrusted with so much more. So there's that element of stewardship. And then if we continue to draw parallels in terms of the principles that we are drawing from the Bible here, there's an element of emergency, okay? As Christ was speaking, we can see that he's talking about the end times. As we continue, if you go through chapter 21 and go all the way to the very end, beyond 25 is where now I believe there's a trial, and then now he will go into crucifixion, he dies, and then, it continues from there. So we can actually see that, he's given us a proper picture of what is going to happen, but again, they still reject this message. So if we draw parallels then, it is very important for us to know that Christ is basically telling us to be ready. Are you ready? Right? As we've gone through the parables, we've talked about the 2 sons, the parable of the tenants, we've spoken about the wedding banquet as well. Are you ready, basically? So in that case, present day, like you asked Edmund, have you saved up probably for a rainy day? Okay. Do you have an emergency fund, for example, that you've put aside for that rainy day? We've gone through COVID, for example, which lasted us a number of years, I can say. Before it happened, were we proactive enough to say that we had probably put aside,
Potential
right?
could have happened.
Yeah, not to say that you're being an alarmist or anything, but you're just being prudent, and you're, seeing into the future, just as Christ was able to, showcase for us. So it's just planning, okay? Being that good steward as the Lord has rightfully put it for us. So planning ahead, ensuring that you have that emergency fund put aside. An emergency fund would probably look like either 6 to 12 months, 12 months of your expenses, the amount of money that you need to be able to put aside, just in case something happens. Then you have this money that you can be able to utilize. Yeah, so I believe that would be a good way for us to draw parallels with the present day.
Now, when you look at even just that parable of the talents, sometimes I ask myself then, how should a Christian define success in the light of this story? Especially when you begin looking at mindset that would separate being the wise steward from the fearful one.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there is productivity, being fruitful. But God is the creator, He's the owner. So why should multiplication, not just preservation, be critical in God's kingdom?
Right. Okay. First of all, it's biblical.
Yes.
Yeah, I think ultimately that is the foundation for us. The Bible has made it very clear that there's an expectation from God, right? Because He is the one who created us, and He has put us in charge of this, earth. If you look at scriptures, it makes it very clear that when God created Adam, He gave him authority over everything.
Yes.
And He gave him a command to, not
charge.
only take charge, but also there was an element of multiplication, growth, and impact from what had been entrusted to him. So let's just start from there. One, it is biblical for us to do so. And then when we look at God in Himself, He is an investor, okay? Right? By Him being a creator, and just from the different themes that we've been able to look at in the different chapters, and generally, if you look at the Bible, you'll be able to see that God truly gives. And when He gives, He expects a return, okay? So there's that level of multiplication there, and fruitfulness, just from God being that investor. He's giving and He expects something in return from us. And then again, there's that element of the fact that we are stewards, okay? We're not owners, we are like caretakers. God has given us not only the earth to take care of, but everything that we have today, He has entrusted to us so that we can be able to multiply it in some way and in some form. And then also there's an element of impartation, Edmund. When you think about where we've just come from, which is Matthew 25, with the master having given the 5 talents, the 2 and the 1, there's a point where, as we were discussing earlier, where you asked, why would He give 5, 2, and 1? Obviously, there's an element also of ability, which is fine because we're all different and we all handle maybe resources differently. We've all been called into different spaces, and that's okay. But what primarily we're seeing here is that even with that 1, there was still impartation from the master. And he needed to acknowledge that and to have taken that up and done what he needed to have done. So with impartation, God basically has given us the power to create. He's given us power to multiply because of that impartation that is there from Him. So primarily, the key verse here for us is Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18, which says, "But remember the Lord your God, For it is he who has given you the ability to produce wealth. Okay, so it essentially what you're saying is that it doesn't matter what you have in your hand. And I think even as we go along, we'll get to see this in detail. But don't discriminate where you are and what you have. Be it the 5, the 2, or the 1, wherever you are, you can be able to just have a moment with yourself and figure out where you truly stand. But what we're saying is that there's an impartation that God has placed upon us. He has given us the ability to actually produce wealth. So you can do it no matter where you are and with whatever you actually
Now let's
have.
dive into financial stewardship in daily life. And in the Kenyan context, key ideas are earning, budgeting, saving, investing. I mean, you're in that space, so these are terms that you hear every day. Handling debt
Yeah.
and financial stress, financial literacy as a form of discipleship. Now, things are thick in Kenya. Life is hard. And that's not new. Christ said, in this world, you will. Remember that girl said, you shall, not may. Iko
Yes,
shida.
yes, yes.
Iko sida. So,
Yeah.
income is limited. Income can be unstable. So, as a Christian, how should
Yeah.
Christians approach budgeting? Because you can't plan without a budget to guide others. It's like you're groping in the dark and hoping to succeed. You may, but you're unlikely.
True. Nobody wants to grope in the dark. I don't want to, and I know you don't want to, and neither does anybody else. So I think ultimately, you've asked what we need to do in terms of personal finance. I like to look at it in terms of a framework. I guess that shows how meticulous I am. I'm quite melancholic, but it's the principles are there, and if you're able to follow it, just the same way the Bible has given us. As I was doing my research, I got to establish that truly, truly, the Bible has all the answers. Yeah, we've already gotten to see through the different chapters that we've looked at, but then now, as we draw parallels, now we can see that we as Christians now, or generally as Kenyans, we can be able now to come up with different either frameworks that could work for us. Some of them may not be cast on stone, and I'll just talk about them shortly, but maybe you can come up with something that would work. I'll talk about one. It starts off with a situational analysis, okay? Where are you currently, for example, Edmund, okay? So let's do an assessment of where you are, okay? Do you have an emergency fund? We've just come from talking about that. Umesema Kenya ni ku.
Ni ngumu.
So
Yeah.
I think it would be a bit of a disservice to yourself if you got stuck in that kind of rut and generalized that is the state of the nation and that's the
Just
state.
remain there.
Yes, and just remain there. We need to be able to move forward from that and figure out what needs to be done. So let's do a situational analysis. Who is Edmund? Where is Edmund today? Where is Edmund coming from? Let's do it's a financial clinic now. You've come to see the financial doctor and you want to figure out, where am I? Niko pabaya? Am I in a critical state?
I'm on the ward.
Am I niko wapi? Like, I need to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are many companies in Kenya that can help you with that. We do that at no cost, where we walk you through a session for financial advisory so that you can be able to make financially sound decisions. So the foundation is very critical. Remember the other day, there was a house that came crashing down,
Yeah.
right? So just from that, we could see that maybe the foundation for this house was not laid out properly. So with Edmund, what does his foundation look like? For us as an investment industry, we like to say that the fundamentals are things like the emergency fund. Do you have an emergency fund, for example? We've talked about the 6 to 12 months of expenses,
That
right?
can cushion you
That can cushion you in case of
unfortunate
anything.
event.
Okay. Christ already talked about it. So now, here, we too need to be able to be prepared. And then insurance. Do you have insurances in place? Starting off with medical, there's households, and then there's life insurance. So that is the foundation, and this is as brief as can be, just surface level. We can have even longer sessions later just to get to unpack a bit more. But that's the foundation. And then now, as we move along, now we get to look at things like budgeting, as you've said. There are many rules which are out there, like the 50-30-20 rule. It's a universal rule. It's very friendly and easy to remember. But like I said, it's not cast on stone. So you can come up with anything that works for you as an individual with the money that you have.
Like the 50-30-20.
Yeah.
Just give me, what are those buckets?
Okay. So 50 in this case would be your needs, okay? Those things that you can't live without, okay? Then 30 would be your wants. We don't want Edmund to die of boredom, right? We want you to be able to enjoy your life. Even as you've taken care of your needs, we want you to also be able to enjoy your life. And then now there's the 20, which is now the savings. Very, very important. And then because Edmund is a man of God, he also wants to factor in tithing. So
Yes.
it should be primarily within that context as well. So 50-30-20, like I said, it's not cast on stone. But it's just something that would guide you, that you can start off with. And with time, you can make it a bit more maybe complex along the way, but it helps you to start somewhere. So essentially what you're saying is this is a money plan. If you don't label your money, if you don't name your money, it will name itself. It will give itself some shuguli, right? That's how you end up with pockets that have holes.
And you wonder,
And you're wondering how
so much has come through, but you can't see,
yeah,
can't feel it.
what happened to my money?
Yeah.
I have a friend who likes to say, you end up having more month than money.
That money.
You're getting to the 15th of the month, and you're wondering what happened to
What
my
happened?
money.
Yeah.
You're confused. It's almost like you didn't have that money to begin with. So what happens is that before this money comes into your account, you've already planned for it. So that now once it comes, you're not haujashtuka.
It goes where it's supposed to go.
Yes. So now it has a proper, proper streams. It knows where it's going. It has been labeled accordingly. So it takes the right channel. So that's where budgeting comes in. We've spoken about the 50-30-20 rule. And then we've said saving is also very important. We've spoken about tithe. But I'd like to ask you, Edmund, if I was to challenge you, maybe with 1,000 bob right now, what would you do with it in this context? We'll move on. We'll move on. But what would you do with it?
Kidogo wise, I will not lock it
Okay.
or sleep
what
on
would
it.
you do? Yeah?
Well, first of all, I would have to assess what are my needs for sustenance to determine. And once I've defined what the needs are, because those are the must-haves. I mean, I cannot survive without.
Yeah.
You must have food, you must have a roof
Clothing,
over your head,
shelter.
you must have, define. So understanding what my needs are. The ones, good to have, but
Yeah.
I can survive without. The saving, I'd actually put it in terms of value scale, as it were, priority, as much as the needs. Because the ones I can survive without.
Yeah.
But the saving, and that is why I imagine, Stan, you're the expert here, even the investment would come from that
Yeah.
allocation, so to speak.
Right.
So 1,000 bob, 500 go to the needs,
Okay.
300 to the wants,
Okay.
and 200. If anything, I would really be critically growing that last
Yeah.
component, because that is more futuristic, because the needs can seem to be the recurrent that then gets consumed as I get along.
Right.
So, but again, key then is where would I invest?
Right.
These Gen Zs don't know about quail. Why? They need to go and Google. Because then it comes into wise investing.
Yeah.
Just because you've seen your neighbor with a big vehicle and you think, I've seen chickens around, even I get chickens so I can drive. It doesn't necessarily work that way.
That's true.
So discernment between wise investing and risky ventures. Definitely gambling is out.
Yes.
In fact, it's a new pandemic topic for another day.
Right.
And then, of course, appreciating that even as I do so, acknowledging we're not necessarily we're all created in God's image. To that extent, we're equalized.
Yeah.
But He has provided us in His wisdom that Wangeshi shall have this, Edmund shall have that, Nixon shall have the other, in terms of as you journey through this earth. Hence the aspect of stewardship, but contentment. Because then you'll see those who have more, or so you see, think from a perspective, and start thinking you deserve what they have. And that can be chasing a mirage.
That's true. So you've done a good job.
Have I passed?
By following the rule. The textbook response was pretty good. So you've spoken about saving. Your 200 shillings was your saving, right? So what we need to understand is that saving is, you're just putting aside, you've just put it aside.
But
then now,
how to grow it.
correct. So what do you need to do? What do you need to do? What step do you need to make to not only put it aside, but to ensure that this money is actually growing, right? So, and that's where now the element of investing now comes in. So investing has multiple layers, right? But what is most important for us to establish is, now that we are using Edmund as an example, is to get to understand who is Edmund, your social profile, how old are you, your family dynamics, how many children do you have, what is your risk profile? Because all these things ultimately affect who you are as an investor. We normally say that investors have three objectives. The first one is capital preservation, right? Where you want to just save, you want to preserve your money, and you want it to be cushioned against inflation, right? And it's usually the fundamental investing
And do I understand
level.
preservation is at least maintaining it, not to lose value?
Not to lose value.
Yeah.
And that's where now the element of being cushioned against inflation is coming in, right? And then the other objective is income, okay? What I haven't mentioned is that capital preservation, there's an element of a very low risk. You don't want to lose that money. The 1,000 bob that we've spoken about right now, or a few minutes ago, is that when you invest that 1,000 bob, for example, you want to come back after a year and you want to find that 1,000 bob still intact. However, you have some interest over and above that 1,000 Kenya shilling. So that's what capital preservation is all about. There's no risk, or rather there's low risk and there's no element of loss. And then moving on to the second objective is now income. So income is where you're saying that I want to have a steady stream of income over time. Maybe you have a project in the next 5 to 10 years, or maybe 20 years from now. Or maybe you even want to plan for your retirement years. So you want to start now and you're projecting into the future. So that's where now income comes in. And there are different assets which are attached to each of these objectives. So there's capital preservation, and then we've gone to income. Then lastly, we have growth.
Yes.
And with growth, you're basically saying that you want to double or triple your income over time. Okay? But your risk appetite is much higher than it would be where capital preservation is, or with income. So the higher we go, the higher the risk. And what you normally say is high risk,
High return.
high potential return.
Yeah.
Okay, so ultimately, that's where you need to look. That's pretty surface level, but that's what you need to look at in terms of investing. Where am I currently? As you do your assessment, look at your social profile, look at your different dynamics, and then now you're able to apply the different objectives that are applicable. But you have to start with the foundation. And the foundation here would be the emergency fund. The emergency fund is where now the capital preservation is. So you open an emergency fund. And then as time goes by, as your risk appetite also grows, then you're able to diversify, you're able to grow your portfolio and add other, assets along the way that would meet your needs as you move along.
Do I take it, if I'm hearing correctly then, the first bucket, so to speak,
Yeah.
is the emergency fund? Once that is in place, then I can spread? Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if we, because we want to ensure that we are weaving these themes, even just from what we've gathered from scripture. Christ was talking about preparedness. He was
Yes.
talking about you don't know the time or the hour. You don't know when I will be coming back. So you need to be ready. And that's where now the emergency fund comes in, if we draw parallels with where investments are concerned. So you need to be able to have that emergency fund saving basically for that rainy day or whatever may come. So that starts off as the foundation. And as you move along, you can now grow the portfolio based on your risk appetite. That can be done.
How do you address fear, procrastination, and lack of initiative? I'm looking at that fellow who was given that one talent, and he decided to just daily, and aiangalia tu akilala, is still there, it's still there, it's still there. This fear.
Yeah.
And here, just appreciating that there are also non-financial talents that God gives. So why would a believer bury their talents today?
Okay, so there are many elements that may cause somebody to be fearful. I believe one of them, and again, as we're drawing from the Bible, would be lack of knowledge. Okay, the Bible talks about my people perish because of lack of knowledge. So there's an element of financial, probably illiteracy.
Yes.
According to FSD, that is Financial Sector Deepening, they have mentioned that the level of financial literacy levels in the country are actually pretty low. And they say that only 18.3% of Kenyans are financially healthy.
Literate. Oh, healthy. Oh, that is
Yes, only 18.3%.
when I see you.
Yeah, we're truly not in a good state. So I think most importantly, it is essential for us as Kenyans to have that financial empowerment. And like I said, it's something that we need to have that appetite for financial literacy in the country. And the good thing is, with time, thankfully, social media has come in and it has made it, more accessible. It's easy now to access this kind of information. Now, be it on YouTube or TikTok or wherever, this is information that is readily available. So get the information, go out there and seek for the information, get to understand, what options there are out there. Like I mentioned, the different objectives that there are. Do your due diligence so that also you can get to recognize that, the people I'm dealing with are also regulated.
Yes.
Don't go and look for something that is just
Some loan shark somewhere.
yeah, quail eggs, like you were
Quail.
saying, and just hop on it. Don't
Yeah.
hop on fads. Go for regulated funds that, in fact, currently in the country, we have about 234 regulated funds in the country. Okay. So look for one of those, okay? Go on those CMA websites under investor protection, get to understand, who these people are within the collective investment schemes. Currently we have about over 450 billion, assets under management within the collective investment schemes in the country. So lack of knowledge, Edmund, like I said, would lead to that fear or, lack of decision making. But also there could be an element of an analysis paralysis.
Oh, yeah.
You probably
You
have
just
the
turn around, but
information.
you're not moving.
Yeah. Phlegmatics. I like personality traits. There's usually an element of indecisiveness. You probably have the information, but maybe a phlegmatic will tell you, I'm still sitting on it.
I will Not yet.
Yes, I'm still having a meeting with myself. You know, I'll make the decision. So analysis paralysis is something that you need to let go of, okay? And just make the decision. As long as you have the information, the people who are there, who are readily available, like I said, we have financial advisors available, who can guide you to move past the paralysis stage and to actually be able to make, you know, to act on what you need to act on. And then finally, there's an element of insignificance.
Uh-huh.
You feel like what you have, like the one who, with the one talent,
Okay, it's not enough.
it's nothing. And I just want to pack it somewhere where I can look at it. I like to say it's my pretty penny that I can look at, and I don't want it to move. Before, you know, collective investment schemes in the country became affordable as they are today, I believe that's what most Kenyans probably were doing, you know. Wacha ikae either kwa bank, or I'll have it at home where I can look at it. But insignificance.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel like what I have is not enough, or it's not good enough. In the Bible, we saw Moses going through that moment where he felt like what I have is not enough. Why are you sending me? First of all, I have killed an Egyptian, yeah, and then you're telling me to go back to that land to face Pharaoh.
It didn't seem like a good idea.
By the way, please look for somebody else, not me. I don't think I can handle this.
Now, as we are almost landing this plane, you're a family lady.
Yes.
When is the right time to start teaching financial wisdom to children so that we impart, and what form do we see this so that as they grow, they have these basics with them?
Okay. I think as early as possible. The Bible says, teach a child the way they should go, and as they grow, they will not depart from it, right? So that in itself should be able to guide us. It says a child, not an adult. It doesn't say a teen. It says a child. So we should be able to inculcate these values as early as possible. I know of a school that has a currency within their school as early as PP1, PP2, grade 1. If the child does something good, back in the day we used to have merits and demerits. I don't know, what did you guys have? Merits or demerits, stars. But in this school, they actually have a currency. So you do well, you're given points. And then these points you can redeem at the end of the term. Okay? So they now put up a sale, and they actually allow the kids to purchase what they need to purchase at the shop with those points. So you can see that this is actually something that the kids will get to grow with from grade 1 all the way till grade 9. And as they move on into even into high school and later on into life. So ultimately, the earlier you start, the better. Inculcate it into the different systems, into schools, at home. If you're able to inculcate or rather apply the same rule maybe at home. I personally do it at home with my husband. We have the same system at home as well, where we try and teach them how to save as early as possible. But also, these collective investment schemes give you an opportunity to open an account for the children as well. So you can actually create an account for a minor. It is possible.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can create an account. It will sit under a parent account, maybe now under you or myself, and then now grow those funds over time. So this is something that we can inculcate into the families as early as possible, even as we think about building kingdom wealth and ensuring that we get to a space where we can grow as a kingdom.
And the aspect of investing in the kingdom with our wealth, how does that look like for you, coming from the financial advisory or fund management space?
Say that again.
How does it look like to invest in the kingdom with our wealth? We're investing, we're but stewards. You're in the fund management space.
Right.
unpack it for me like a 2-year-old.
Okay. So investing in the kingdom basically has it has multiple. It can have multiple layers as well. We're trying to grow finances so that we can be able to ensure that we are making or having impact within the kingdom. Okay, so within the investment industry, for us, what that would look like would be empowering the churches, for example. Our services are, we have training and empowerment, okay, which is very key for us. Our key mission is to prudently empower Kenyans to attain financial freedom. So ultimately, that's where it starts. So we train and we empower. We go into those highways and byways that Christ was talking about. We're going out to look for not just the Gentile, I mean the Jews, like was expected. Now we're doing it in other ways as well. We're going out, we're training anyone and everyone that is ready to accept this information, just to be able to grow the financial literacy levels in the country. So once we train and empower you, then we're able to move on to financial advisory now, where we now look at the different aspects of debt management. We look at your risk profile and all those things. And this is being done at a personalized point of view, right? And then once that is clear, then that's when now we move into investment management, where now we look at asset allocation, and then we can look at portfolio management and all that. So that can be done in whichever sphere, be it in the churches or wherever it might be, just to be able to ensure that people are empowered and they can be able to make those financial decisions. So that we don't get to a point. I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine who was telling me that there's a particular church that has been able to give to the community that surrounds it. But unfortunately, they've gotten to a point whereby people will come, and because the storehouse has completely run out, they're not able to give any longer. So if we're able to proactively come from a point where we know the kind of demand that there is within the Kenyan context, or even now for that church in particular, the kind of demand that they have or that they've always had, then they're able to put measures in place in such a way that they can grow their funds significantly to a point where they can actually be able to be sustainable enough to take care of the needs, not only of the church, but also of the community around it.
Wonderful. This plane is about to land. From a discussion, 3 take-home points, 30 seconds from you. What would you say?
Okay, so I think ultimately what we have said, which is a common theme here, is preparedness. Being ready. You know, if you don't have an emergency fund account, then it is very crucial for you to start there. Ensuring that the foundation is right. So set up an emergency fund, reach out to the necessary or the relevant people who can actually guide you through, okay? And then once you do that, then you will be able to grow in a way that will be able to please not only yourself, but also the Lord. It is expected of us to give a return of what has been entrusted to us. So I think that would be my key theme or my key takeout, that put up an emergency fund account. Then also do not feel like what you have is too little. God can use it. Whatever is in your hand. Remember Moses?
Yes.
He was told to release
what
the staff.
You have. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever you have, be it little, be it 1,000 shillings, collective investment schemes in the country start off with as little as even 500 bob or 1,000 Kenya shillings. It's very affordable now. So start with what you have, where you are, and then grow from there. If you need help, look for a consultant.
Wonderful. Well, that's Lofty Coburn for you, Wangeshi Mwangi. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the masterclass, and I look forward to public demand. Who knows? Tell us if you want us to come back again. My take-home points: 3, stewardship is spiritual obedience. 2, fear leads to loss. Faith leads to fruit. And 3, faithfulness in small things leads to greater responsibility. So my call to action is that start small, start now. God doesn't expect perfection. What he desires is growth. And trust him with your talent, however little, and you will see his faithfulness. We don't take the privilege of your time for granted. My name is Edmund Mudibo. Let's do this next week, same time. God bless.